back to reality. I stood for a moment, took a deep, long breath, and got into the car. I was being ridiculous. As a trained professional, I knew that it took more than the 20 minutes I had spent in the morgue to booby-trap a car parked in an open lot, in full view, without arousing suspicion. Besides, the assassin had to be a professional hitman, not a serial killer randomly selecting his next victim. The only people who knew about my pursuit of Raymond DeLuise and my efforts to seize his assets were the U.S. Department of Justice and the Mossad, Israel's Foreign Intelligence Service, my current and former employers, respectively. And neither eliminated people in the dirty money business that way. They simply made the wrongdoers read their service and procedures manuals. That was ample punishment. I tentatively turned the key in the ignition. No surprises. The engine roared to life, and I drove off. Though still on high alert, I calmed down somewhat, scanning the streets as I drove. As I pulled up at a stoplight, I took a brief but thorough look at a couple of types in a blue Mercedes parked across the street. They were staring at me. Something about their appearance made me suspect they were not a natural part of the landscape. Military-type men, somber-looking. Are they on assignment? A scene from a black-and-white Hollywood movie ran fast-forward before my eyes. Soon, one dark-skinned guy sitting in the car would jump out in front of me with a gun, shout something in an indistinct language, and start spraying the area with bullets. I'd run for cover, pull out the .22 caliber Beretta, aim with both hands, true to my Mossad training, and unload the entire clip into his head, watching as he collapsed in slow motion. I smiled at the thought, culled from the many detective stories I'd read in my teenage years in Israel. These men were probably Turkish or Albanian gastarbeiter, guest workers, waiting for a friend to return from a visit to the nearby hospital. Besides, I was not armed. The light turned green. I sped away. Fantasy intrigues many people because a mere glimpse into the world beyond the horizon changes everything, taking one into a wild twilight zone. As for myself, I need reality. It makes me strong and confident. I was beginning to like the new challenge of this case. It would be a refreshing change from the routine of tracing crooks through endless reviews of paper trails, bank statements, and the smell of spilled coffee on documents and files retrieved through subterfuge and deception. Even the social engineering, the current politically correct phrase for befriending a target to elicit information, would have to happen on a different level. This time, the action was in the present tense. In all my other Department of Justice cases during my 10-year service as an investigative attorney, I was called in after the fact, after the crook had taken off with the money, after the money had been laundered, after the best lawyers and accountants money can buy had buried the money so deep in a warren of offshore trusts and shell companies that it would take an expert miner to dig it out. I was one of those expert miners, not a homicide detective. My target's sudden murder put my asset recovery investigation into a whole new league. I wasn't complaining, though. I had to report my findings to David Stone, my boss at the U.S. Department of Justice, and thought it would be best to do it from the American consulate through a secure phone. Clearly, murder made the case far more than a hunt for money. But first, I drove back to my hotel. I needed a shower to wash off the smell of the morgue. I also wanted to get some sense of whether the homicide was relevant to my assignment before getting a taste of the bureaucracy at the consulate. Half an hour later, feeling a lot cleaner and wearing a standard soft hotel bathrobe, I opened my room safe and put in the documents Stone had given me 2 weeks ago. There was the usual stuff, all of which fell under the category of unclassified but sensitive documents. The fact sheet on DeLuise containing his photo, bio, and vital statistics, a copy of his California driver's license, and the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, report. Nothing classified for national security purposes, but documents that could still